The class I have coming in tonight are some regulars. They have been to multiple classes, so I thought it would be fun to bring them together for a fun little Thursday night class. So we have John and Lauma and Karina and Jen. And they are just some of the most kind and fun and funny people to have in the kitchen. They love food and they love learning about food, and it just makes my job so much more entertaining.
What do you think?
That looks beautiful. I can't wait to see them all again and cook with them and then sit down and eat with them. We are going to do 2 dishes. One is a particular favorite because it just evokes spring, and my favorite color is green. Primavera verde, classic primavera, but the versions that I had most often in Italy were just green vegetables, which is really what spring is about. And luckily, where we are here, some of those things have finally come to fruition in late May and early June. So we're gonna make fresh fettuccine from scratch, very light silky sauce with a hint of tarragon, and then we're gonna make a beautiful chocolate ricotta torta with basil infused strawberries. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is gonna be fun.
I think I've done 4 or 5 classes with Enid. Different variations, Mediterranean, Italian, vegetarian, yeah, and then tonight.
Yeah, I've done 2 classes and this is my 3rd time here.
I've done about 4 or 5, I think, at this point.
And you?
Same. Yeah.
Same?
Found out about her online, and I just thought this is a great thing to do, and I started coming. The first time I came with a group of people, a group of women that I hike with. We all came together. The second time I came with a few friends. 3rd time with my sister-in-law, and 4th time, I think I might have come by myself. Can't even remember. So it's been a good experience.
An actual primavera typically is just made at the start of spring, in Italy anyways, and mostly in France. And at that time of the year, there's only so many things that actually have color. Most everything else is indeed verde or green. The only thing, and I tried to get them, but the greenhouses are behind, is I would also typically include fave here. In the recipe that I'll send you, I've included as an option, yeah. We do grow them seasonally here in Canada, but fava season in Italy is about to kick off, and it's a big deal. They have sagras all over the north. A sagra is like a food festival where it's just for typically one food being celebrated. Fave are the ones, they come in the quite large fat pods, and if you open them, they have that kind of like fuzzy comforter on the inside, and there's usually about 4, maybe 5 if you're lucky, big pods, and then you have to take that exterior pod off to get to the tender center.
It's 2 layers.
It's 2 layers of pod. So Italians actually like them because it's extra work, so that's what makes them extra special.
I'm Italian.
Yeah, so it's like there's so much more work to get to the good stuff in the center, so they make an extra big deal of it being seasoned. So what we are going to use is, this is local asparagus. This is from Ridge Road, and it's actually quite perfect for this because it's all beautifully sized.
Is it better to buy asparagus when it's really thin? Because I remember my father always telling me that, don't buy the really thick, husky ones.
Truthfully, I prefer the ones that are just right. They're the Goldilocks asparagus. So there's wild asparagus are the thinnest, and we don't have them so much here. It's not that we can't have them, it's just we don't have them as much. BC has them more, but in Italy and France and Spain, they grow all over and they just go foraging for them, and they are very thin. This time of year, we're kind of spoiled for the good stuff. It's when you kind of go a little bit too pre-season, or when we sort of trickle out of asparagus season, that you'll start to see those bigger woody ones. Now, contrary to that, white asparagus, you want the plumper, fatter guys, because they have more kind of like milky, sweet flavor, and they're actually bred to be a little bit plumper. A thin white asparagus, not elegant, not tasty. So that's a big difference. Yes, and the Dutch too. I remember the very first meal I had when I went to high school there, they served me white asparagus with pizza, a pizza with tuna on it.
Oh.
And they were like, and here's Dutch food. I was like,
Wow, that's different.
okay. But I fell in love with the white asparagus, mainly because they served it with a bechamel and cheese sauce. It's like,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go with tarragon, because tarragon goes well with these flavors, and we're gonna add some acidity with lemon just to brighten this whole thing up. But you could use any herb you wanted. You could do marjoram, basil, thyme even, oregano, any of those would work beautifully. And then these are just frozen sweeties. So if fresh peas come into season when you make this, absolutely, shuck your own peas and use those. But frozen are just as good if you don't have them. And we're gonna add a little bit of garnish and sweetness. These are pea sprouts from the greenhouse. So they'll just echo that sweet pea flavor, but they'll give some extra freshness. So the whole point of primavera is everything should taste green and springy. Like it really should be the kind of paramount of winter's finally over, and these are the first kind of, you know, throes of things are turning around and appetites are changing, and that's what we want to taste. So we're going to make fresh cut pasta. We're going to aim for a little bit thinner than fettuccine, but I'm not going to, you know, feel the pressure of like being like, it's too fat, it's too fat. We're all going to be working with the same thinness of pasta because we're going to roll it out. I'll kind of show you what to aim for, but don't stress. Cutting pasta by hand is not easy, especially as a first time doing it. It's not easy. There's so many little things that have to happen like perfectly to ensure that when you try and mimic me, it works for you the way it works for me. And I never want anyone to feel, what happened to mine? Why does hers always work? First of all, it works because I've been doing it for 20 years and I know what to look for. So I'll try and help you as much as I can. And then we're going to do a dessert. We're going to do a riff on the torte caprese. We're going to add some ricotta to it. And then we're just going to top that with basil marinated strawberries. What we need to do is get our pasta made because it needs to rest. And then we'll get our cake started so it can be in the oven. And then we'll putz around with doing some vegetable prep. We're going to do a Cliff Notes version of pasta making. So essentially you can separate the country into northern style pasta and south and southern style pasta. And I always make a point, and this is just so the next time you go to Italy, you can sound very smart and the locals will love you for it. Southern Italy is not South Italy and vice versa. And then within that, so Southern Italy is essentially Sicily, Ettal, and then South Italy is Puglia, Molise, Le Marche. They're different. Then within Southern Italy, you have Sicily, which is not Italy, they are Sicilian. And then you have Sardinia, which is Sardinia, which technically is a part of Italy, but they are not Italians, they are Sardinians. So in the event you happen to be in Puglia and they're like, oh, I love being in Southern Italy. You are in South Italy. You are not in Southern Italy. Then in South and Southern Italy, they grow durum flour, which is the golden wheat. The reason I like this one is I just think it has a slightly nicer texture because it does have that little bit of less refinement than the 00 has. And Italians typically eat pasta 50% based on taste and 50% based on texture. So let's get messy. So the first thing that we need to do is just pick up both of your eggs and go ahead and build your well, and just take 2 or 3 fingers and go right down to the wood so you can actually see the wood, and just try and visualize 1 whole egg plus 1 egg yolk, because that's what we're going to use today. What's great about wood is during the rolling process and the kneading process, the wood has sort of all these little microscopic little textures to it that makes the kneading process easier, but also when you're rolling out, it adds its own little bit of texture. You might not see it, but it's there. But also it acts as a moisture absorber. And then remember, every time you add flour outside of the recipe, you're changing the texture of that thing. So consider like when you're rolling out cookies or something, oh, I'm just gonna add more flour because it's sticking. You're changing the texture of the end result because that flour was never considered in the recipe. So for your first egg, that's gonna be our whole egg.
How big this space is?
No, that's gonna be big enough for you. So just go ahead and crack your first whole egg into the center of your well. There's a few different ways to separate your yolk. Probably the way we all learned growing up was the back and forth method, which is my least favorite method because I find it's the version that you're most likely to split your yolk, and that's usually because of a wayward kind of rigid shell. I'm a very tactile cook. I love using my hands as much as I can in the kitchen. So I prefer the French method or the Italian method. Both are far more sensual, that's the saying. But some people don't enjoy it because you have to use your hands. So the French method is to just gently crack the egg into a bowl. Oops. And then with clean hands, just go in and gently caress the yolk out. Caress. And then you can just move it back and forth between your hands, and that will separate the albumin from the yolk, and then you end up with a perfect yolk. The Italian version is very similar, except it gets cracked directly into your hand, and you just split your fingers. The one Nona called this the Vatican V. She says split your fingers for the Vatican, and then the albumin just falls between, and then you snap your fingers and it'll pinch it off. So however you want to separate your egg, go ahead. The most important thing when you're cracking it is do it low in the bowl. If you do it from a height, you risk your yolk. When it touches the bowl, it could separate on you. Okay, hold on.
When you're not a Catholic and you try the Vatican V. As you can see, there's a real camaraderie around the dining room table from people that you've gone through the process with, and that's it's not unusual to be the only guy. And one thing I love about here is that I was instantly put at ease and made comfortable here, and there's nothing unusual about being a guy around the table with a bunch of women. They're just people learning how to cook this amazing food.
And if you just pierce your yolks, just to ensure that they get beat up a little bit, and then what you want to do in terms of whisking is actually just bring the fork down to the wood and up and over itself. And doing this, you're essentially incorporating the interior wall into your yolk. If you were to just go like this and stir it, all you're going to be doing is stirring the yolk around the wood, as opposed to actually it incorporating in the walls. And you're looking to kind of get to like a glue consistency. Don't even stress about this, because in like 30 seconds you're going to ditch the forks and you're going to be in there with your fingers anyways.
Okay, good.
And then just get in there with your fingertips now and just start bringing it together. And it's going to be messy on your fingers. It's going to stick to your fingers for the first little while, but just stay the course. I believe the millennials say trust the process. This is the process. Just trust it. And be aggressive with it. You don't need to be gentle with it. The more aggressive you are with your dough, the more you're improving the overall texture of it, because you need to be aggressive with the gluten. It's going to have a period to rest so that it's nice to us when we go to roll it out. But at this stage in time, have no mercy on it. So once you've got this loose ball, and again, that could include little bits on the board, the kneading process is just like kneading bread. So just pushing it away with your the heel of the interior of your palm, pull it back up over itself, and then give it a quarter turn, and then do that again. Away from itself, up on itself, quarter turn. And just keep doing this motion, away, up on itself, quarter turn. And as you're doing this, it will stick to your heel of your palm a little bit, but as you keep pushing it into the wood and picking up those little bits of flour, it will not stick to you anymore, and it will become easier, and you can do it a little quicker. And a ball this size, which is again just meant for one person, you just need to knead it for about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Yeah, I never met, in all my years of studying with Nonas, living with them, I never saw a Nona, even if there was a mistake, get frustrated and just be like, I'm out. They're just like, meh, va bene, or normale, and they're like, whatever.
They can make it better.
I'll sit down in front of a table, particularly of hungry men, and they'd be like, this one looks a little off, mama. Head back into the kitchen, because quite frankly, if that was ever said, at least in some of the Nonas I met, they'd have a rolling pin straight to the face. If that ever happened. You can make this earlier in the day if you want and just set it aside in a coolish place. Don't leave it in a windowsill or next to the stove. Otherwise, it really just needs 20 to 30 minutes of rest time, but just make sure it's tightly sealed. Sometimes if you know for sure you're going to cook it or shape it and cook it within half an hour, you can just put a damp towel over it or flip a bowl. That's the old Nona move, is just flip a bowl over top of it.
To be honest, what Enid shares really is a wealth of wisdom in her culinary expertise. But when you're in there, you kind of don't feel like you're with a culinary expert. You just feel like you're with a family or friends. There's just so much you learn without realizing you're learning. So what specifically, I think inspiration comes out of it. You just are so inspired because there's so much you're learning to just get in the kitchen. More practically, I learned the easiest way to cut an onion.
Oh yeah.
Like
What is
30
it?
years I've been cutting it wrong. You cut it in half and then just cut to the base, but don't cut all the way through, and it holds it together. It just, that simple act has made cutting or cooking fun. Like, sometimes cooking supper is a bit of a chore, and just having these little tips she drops.
Yeah, totally.
You take them
There's
home.
so many
and-
of them.
Yeah.
Like just even today, I there were so many. I'm like, see, that's just a small thing, but it's such a big difference. It's all the small things that become enormous in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some baking. So we're gonna do, and again, this is essentially the torta caprese, but we're gonna put a little ricotta in it. This ends up being a gluten-free cake as well, which a good portion of Italian cakes are just naturally gluten-free. Almonds grow primarily in South and Southern Italy. Hazelnuts are in Piemonte. Pine nuts are all across the north. You've got walnuts all across the north. So in times where flour was rationed or unavailable, during fascism, Mussolini was taking all of Italy's wheat and giving it to Germany. So it's not necessarily that it wasn't growing there, it's just Italians weren't getting any of it because he was having it all shipped out. So they were using chestnuts, buckwheat, and nuts to make a lot of their breads, pastas, and cakes. And that has stayed on with a lot of these recipes, where when gluten-free came in, Italy was like, well, we're kind of ahead of the game on this because we bake a lot of our cakes with nuts. Now, you can't bake every pastry with nuts. You do need flour for more elegant ones, but this is a classic version of, looks like when you put it together, it's going to be a very dense cake, but it is actually quite kind of tender. It has a nice crumb. It has a little bit of, I hate to use the word wetness because it sounds so awful, but it's like a silkiness, I guess is a better word. It's not dry. It's not just kind of like a pile of nuts where it just falls after it's baked and it doesn't have a lot of lightness. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful texture. So it's a capriote cake. Torta caprese comes from Capri, but again, you'll find a version of this all over. And I'm essentially just putting two together. I'm essentially taking the ricotta torta and mixing it with a capriote tart, and we're essentially creating something new here tonight. So let's see what happens. So we've got almond flour or almond meal, depending. All different companies call it something else, but essentially it's the same thing. Butter, just a little. 200 grams. This serves 8 to 10. Let's calm down. We've got sugar. We're going to separate some more eggs. We've got some good quality chocolate. But when you're buying chocolate for melting purposes, which we are going to melt this with the butter, the main difference is when you're buying chocolate chips, there are ones that are referred to as compound chocolate chips, and they're made traditionally to be put in cookies or brownies because they don't fully melt. They put essentially a coagulant in them that keeps them from fully melting. And if they do fully melt, they're kind of gritty and they're not as smooth. So you want just good quality semi-sweet chocolate. If you don't want to buy it in this form, you can just buy a good bar because you're going to be melting it. It's irrelevant what shape it's in. So better quality chocolate that isn't meant for cookies or brownies. Certainly not baking chocolate, because that doesn't have any cocoa butter in it, and it doesn't have any sugars in it as well, essentially.
So what were those called again?
These are called calettes in like the professional baking world. Sometimes they're shaped just like this. Sometimes they're shaped like almost like the buttons.
Like what she does to just style her food or style her ingredients, or just how she puts it out and organizes it. It's just, that inspires me, even just to set out my ingredients properly and just have everything ready and thought out. And you enjoy the cooking experience a little bit more when you're organized and you sort of have everything beautifully styled the way she does. Even eating is just more pleasant because you walk in and it's like, wow, her table is always so organic and so simple, but so much love put into it. You want to keep repeating that special touch in your own home.
We need 4 eggs separated again, and I'm gonna grab we're gonna grab 2 bowls here. Melt the chocolate, sugar, and butter together along with some vanilla. So
That's vanilla.
this is vanilla.
Oh, I thought. Okay, we need you to do the French.
It's all good. See how easy this is fixed.
Is this where you gets out the rolling?
And I'll grab another egg. We always have lots of eggs. So this is vanilla bean paste.
Ah, okay.
So, but you can use regular
You can.
vanilla. We just like using this in baking because it's concentrated flavor. So for melting your chocolate, you never want to melt just chocolate on its own. If your recipe is calling for just melted chocolate, you would need to do it over a bain-marie, so just a little bit of simmering water. You can melt chocolate pretty efficiently in the microwave. You just have to do it in 30-second increments. Don't try and throw it on 2 minutes because you'll just burn it. Regardless of the quality of the chocolate, it will burn. But because we're melting this with butter, we don't need to use a bain-marie because the butter is going to act as an incubator for our chocolate. So all this butter in.
Okay, I'm a little bit behind. What's a bain-marie?
Bain-marie is, I mean, in old French days, it was 2 copper pots. So a copper pot on the bottom that held some water, and then a copper,
Like
a double boiler. Yes. The gap between where the water hits the flame protects the chocolate from getting too hot and burning. But because we're putting fat in here, that is going to, because the pan is already hot, because it's on. It's my magic powers. My hands are just. Yeah. And then we're going to put the sugar in here as well, and then we're going to put the chocolate in. So this we're just going to melt together over low flame. Now, just because it's incubated with this fat doesn't mean you can walk away from it. You do want to keep it on low and keep an eye on it. And I'll get John a spatula, or whomever wants to stir it. And we're just looking to just get the chocolate and butter incorporated together. If you want to go ahead, Lemma, just go ahead and scrape that ricotta into the egg.
All of it?
Yep. Use all of that.
Start stirring it?
Yeah, I'll grab you a whisk. And actually, you might as well go ahead and throw that pinch of salt in there as well. And then you can scrape your vanilla bean in there as well. And actually, I'll give you a small little spatula. It'll make sure you get all that bean. Or your finger. Yep, that's what I would do. I do have the oven preheated to 350. That's looking beautiful. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the egg whites beat to just kind of medium firm peaks. And we'll just bring it over here. We'll put it on this towel, John, just to let it cool for just maybe 2 minutes while those egg whites go. Very nice. And then we'll end up,
You ever smell that chocolate?
that looks good. And then we'll just leave this for just 2 minutes while the egg whites beat, and then we'll put everything together with a,
This is a quick.
very quick.
I love that. I know.
And also, while we're waiting on that, let's prep the strawberries. For the strawberries, couldn't be simpler. We're just gonna top them. And you can either do slices, or you can cut them into like small pieces, like little dice. Whatever you want for the aesthetic. I think the slices look nicer when piled up on top of the cake, but it's really up to you. Sugar, I don't want to go overboard with the sugar. We're going to rely on the strawberries. Essentially what the sugar does in this recipe is pulls the water from the strawberries to make a little bit of its own syrup. And the little bit of water that's drawn from the strawberries moistens the basil and allows the basil to lend its flavors to the strawberries. We've just whisked the egg whites to relatively firm peaks. We didn't over whisk them because what happens if you take them too far is after they sit for a minute, the water gets pulled out if they've been over mixed. And then if you go to try and fold in over whipped egg whites, all the water that's in that bowl ends up tanking your whole cake. So it might look normal, but when the heat hits it, all that water boils and just sinks to the bottom, and you end up with a very stodgy cake that never quite cooks in the center. And usually the trick is, I've moved them around now so it's dangerous, but if you had just taken them off the machine, you should be able to just flip it over your head and it holds. If it falls out, then there's too much water. Yeah, I can. Yeah. And that was,
That's pretty fun.
now we're testing fate. Hold on.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is her technique for making this cake.
Reminds me of the Friends episode where she put the turkey right over her head.
Oh, Monica, yeah.
That was the yolk and the flour.
Yolk, flour, ricotta, vanilla, and a touch of salt. Okay, and then, John, maybe if you want to hold this up for Jen, and Jen, you can scrape every little bit of that chocolate into that bowl. That looks good.
That's good.
And then just go ahead and get that incorporated in.
Mix it.
No.
He wants to
you're
lick the
doing good.
pan.
Don't miss the stuff on the edge. No, you're good. No.
I didn't give you a chance.
I'm trying to remember what we made that one time where I almost put the spatula in the sink and you were like, stop! I think it was you. Oh, the chocolate mousse, right?
Yeah, you put it in the jar and I didn't give you the jar.
Always is it amazes me
I know.
how simple things are, but how beautiful they turn out.
Yeah. Especially the simpler the recipe, it's kind of fascinating.
So literally for this, you're just down the center, up over the top.
So more gently.
Yeah, so that we don't want to get rid of the air, where that first third that we put in was really just to help loosen up what was an otherwise quite tight batter with all those ground almonds in there.
Okay, this is coming.
Is it? He's saving it for later. It's called memories.
I really enjoyed learning to make bagels, and I've made them again twice since. And it's been really fun because Enid's attitude of like, it's easy, and she's just so relaxed and makes it relaxing for us that I thought I can do this at home. And now I've enjoyed making the bagels myself, and I've made them to take on camping trips, so it becomes a memory, the things you learn here and you take with you. So that's one for me.
That looks beautiful. And this is exactly right. So you can still see some of the egg white. You haven't overmixed it, and that's totally fine. You can use any pan you want. I like to use these springform pans. I just buy these really cheap ones because we go through them. But honestly, I've probably had these for like 5 years. I have like 10 of them, and they last, and we beat the crap out of them. But you could use a regular cake tin as well and still do this. You don't need to use a springform. A springform just makes your life so much easier. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of butter just in the bottom here. And really all this is going to do is hold down my parchment paper. And even though you're using a false bottom, I still like to put a parchment circle in. Just, again, save yourself the aggravation. So don't spend a ton of money on those pre-cut circles. It's easy. Most people just have parchment paper in their home. So just make yourself a circle by folding in half like a book one way, in half one way, and then again. So you've got 2 open sides and 2 closed sides. So bring your top corner over to your closed side and then do the exact same motion again.
It's like making a snowflake.
Yeah. And then,
Or a piping.
yep, you can also do the same thing to make an emergency piping bag. And then whatever circular vessel you're using, just find your center point and then just kind of mark where, just inside the interior wall. And then you can use a pair of scissors or a knife and just cut that down. Oops, it didn't go all the way through.
I feel like getting a Sharpie. Yeah, I know.
There we go. And then you've got your circle.
Yes.
And then that little bit of butter just helps hold your parchment down, and then that will protect.
That's why they say to put butter down first.
Yeah, just to give it a little something to stick to.
That is a worthwhile
There.
tip. I gotta remember how you folded it.
And so batter in. It smells divine. So you can give it a little shimmy if you need to in case it's uneven. And then right into your preheated oven. No, we're gonna use the strawberries as a garnish. I'm gonna set a timer on this. It's gonna take about 26 to 28 minutes, depending on your oven. And then for the strawberries, again, you could start these the morning in advance if you wanted to. Give them at least half an hour or so, 45 minutes, even an hour, to get that good exchange of flavors going. The maceration is already started. That little bit of sugar, which I think was just about 3 tablespoons. And the strawberries are now letting their fructose out because their fructose is in the water. So as the water's leached out from the sugar, the fructose comes out, and that's what that gloss is.
It's kind of like watching a murder mystery. Like Enid leads you through the process. It's like you're following the detective, and you know what the ending is going to be. You know how it's all going to work out because you're in the hands of a master. But it's great to get in there. And as you saw today, I made some mistakes with the egg yolks and that was all fine. It all worked out in the end, and yeah, it always works out in the end.
The little bit of veg prep that we have to do is just cleaning the beans. So we can split this into two if you gals want to handle the beans. So really for these, they just need to be topped. We can leave these little baby tails on because I think they're precious, but the little tips, and you can use a knife to do this, but my nan always used her fingers and I find it kind of nostalgic and I like the sound. I like the snap sound. Most of the time, you really just need to take off maybe like 1/4 of an inch at the end. But typically what I'll do is I'll just, wherever my finger, and I have big fingers, but wherever my fingers touch nails, that's where I snap. Rough 1-inch pieces, and just do them on a slight angle. Again, just for aesthetics. It just looks a little nicer. And then for our tarragon, which in Italian is dragoncello.
Dragoncello.
Don't ask me. Dragoncello.
That's good.
It's beautiful, yeah. I'm a huge cheerleader for tarragon, but it goes really well with these kind of bright green flavors because it is a little bit sweet and it's a little bit floral. So these are very much verdant flavors, if that makes sense. You're both, you know, when you put that in your mouth, you know it's going to taste green. So a chef's pinch, that's a chef's pinch of salt, right? So I know when most people come to class, they do this, and I'm like, do a couple pinches, and then I'm like, where's the salt? And then I would do the same amount of pepper. We are obviously going to season our pasta water because that's our only opportunity to season the pasta because we don't put salt in pasta dough. Your salted water is what seasons your pasta, and then it goes into whatever sauce it's in, seasoned. Because Italians, they season their food. Salt is rarely available. In fact, cheese is typically what they use as a finishing or to salt or to season. But pasta needs to be seasoned the way you're seasoning these vegetables. Pasta needs to be. You never want to put salt in the pasta because it can constrict the gluten.
Not even the water?
No, in the
Yeah, you season the water, make it taste like the sea essentially. My rule with pasta, whether we're doing dry pasta or a fresh pasta, is always use a bigger pot than you think makes sense to use. Because the reason pasta sticks, and this is true of dry pasta, fresh pasta, long pasta, short pasta, filled pasta, is it needs its own space. So it needs enough negative space away from its brothers and sisters to swim around. You don't want it stacked on top of each other, particularly filled pastas. If they're stacked on top of each other, they get stuck, and then you're dealing with a whole mess trying to peel them apart. So think of them as being in a big swimming pool. They need lots of room to twirl around. And all you have to do is once they're dropped in, just give it a little zhuzh with a pair of tongs or a spoon. And that's just enough to like spread them around. And then that's all you need. You don't need to put oil in it. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need to fuss with it. Usually one stir when they first go in a big pot of water is all you need. I notice when people haven't seasoned their pasta water. It's a small thing, but when you're used to being able to tell when something is seasoned as opposed to something that has just been salted, there's a big difference. Things that are seasoned taste great. Things that are salted taste salty.
Interesting.
And again, Italians are great for that because they're infusing essentially salinity as a seasoning into the pasta, and they use cheese as essentially a finishing salt as opposed to just dousing something in salt to bring the flavors out. That's true of a lot of French cooking as well. So this is about 8, I think I have about 8 liters, 7 or 8 liters in there, roughly. And so I do a chef's fist. So it should really taste like the sea.
Yeah.
So let's throw this on the hob and just over low heat, and we're just going to saute it. What we don't want to do is cook it for too long because we want the vegetables to be tender crisp and still have some vibrancy, which is why we're not adding any water. We don't want them to steam. We don't want them to blanch. We just want to get them kissed with the oil and get the salt and pepper to an extent melted in. Then we'll throw our peas in and our herbs while they're still warm with the heat off. And then we're going to drag our pasta with some of the water into that, which will finish cooking the peas. We'll throw our cheese in. We'll put some zest in and some juice, a tiny bit of butter. Toss it all together, and that will emulsify our sauce. And that's our cake, so I'll check that briefly just to see where we're at. Make sure everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And also, this oven, because it has a vent, it's always hotter in the back corner. So it's still just got a little weeble wobble, but Don't be alarmed by this crack. That's what's supposed to happen. It ends up with a slightly cracked top, which looks beautiful when you dust it, but we're putting strawberries on it because it doesn't matter, but that's exactly what's supposed to happen. That's because of the egg whites. Sorry, Jim. So I'm getting even coloring, so I'm not too concerned about rotating it, but it's just got enough wobble that it's going to need about 8 more minutes, which will be pretty much right around 30, 32 minutes is what it's taken on this one.
Get out of here.
All right, so you can help your dough along just by flattening out your piece a little bit and kind of a semi-rectangle. And I'm just giving mine just a tiny little wisp of flour. Put it through one time. And then just for your first pass, you want to give it a fold. And I'm just going to put it back through again at 0. And then from here, you can start moving up. So into position 1. And what I prefer to do is catch it and just let the other side hang, because it'll help stretch it as you're pulling it through. Gravity will kind of pull it this way while you're pulling it through with your other hand, and then it means you don't have to pick and choose which hand. Then into position 2, and then just keep going all the way up. We're going to go to number 6 on this one, and I think it's number 5 as we stop on the KitchenAid one. And I'll come around and check as you're doing it. If it feels a bit tacky, all you're going to do is just give it just a light little kisp of flour and let the excess shake off. And I'm just going to put that on the board. And I'm just going to let it hang. You want to let it hang out for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how dry your space is. 5 to 10 minutes, that's just enough for it to build up a little bit of a dry top on it. Not enough that it's too dry that it breaks, but just enough that when you're running your knife through it, they're not sticking on top of each other. And you can use a little bit of flour, but by that, it's literally just taking a tiny little bit and just running it across the top, and it'll soak in. And then you'll do the exact same thing with your second piece, and I'll just show you over here. From a young age, I liked the idea of teaching. I loved teachers and actually thought I would be one. But for me, outside of that, there's an intimacy there. It is a community that comes together, even if they're not necessarily there to learn specific techniques. They might just be there to meet new people. Okay, so this is ready. So it's got no wiggle left in the center. As it cools down, it will deflate just a little, and it's going to give us just a little divot for our beautiful fruit to sit in. And we could all have different levels of interest in food, or passions for food, or even skill set around food. But the fact that everyone is coming together with the idea that it's about food and will culminate in all of us sitting around the table together eating, that's what I love. And it's this, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on the size of my class, that I get to share this special time with these people. And there's just an exchange there that is very personal to me, and it makes it feel less like a job. It's just, I've invited people into my home and we're talking about my favorite thing, which is food, and they learn something, I learn something, and the best part is just everyone eats at the end. And it's just small and intimate, and it just feels very natural and organic.
And as soon as you walk in, you feel like you're with family and friends. There's something familiar when you walk into Enid Grace's the table. It's just something about that. You walk away, even if it's just for the 2 hours, you feel like you just made friends. One of them I did meet here, and we exchanged phone numbers and came back and did a private class together because we just had a lot of fun with it.
This is obviously too long if we were to cut this in one piece. It doesn't really matter because we're going to end up with this in 2 pieces. So I essentially kind of roll it together like a scroll that meets in the center, like so. As quickly as you can, just run your knife through until you get to the end, and then you've got pasta like that. And then you just have your little nest come side. I know. So everyone try it first. Go easy on yourself.
How do you lift it up and do all that? Okay, here.
You got it. I mean, this is the other way too. You can just fluff it up.
Awesome.
Yeah, que bella. Look at that. And if you got a few, just use your hands and just work them down.
Well, he has a longer sheet though. That makes a difference, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Ah, look at you. There you go.
Oh, that's
Good one.
And pull up at the same time.
yeah. I'm trying to undo these little things.
Okay.
Someone was
There you go. And that is pasta for 5, if not 6 people in the grand scheme of things, when you know you're going to add all the vegetables. See, this is your exercise before you eat all the pasta. And you can see all that flour is going down into the water, and that's what's going to make primo pasta water. And then literally about 4 minutes, we're going to make sure we've got our other ingredients ready, which if someone wouldn't mind zesting this 1 lemon. So let's put our other aromatics in and our final green vegetable. Green on green on green. Let's be reasonable. This is like for 6 people. 5 people, 6 people. That's, please. You wouldn't last in France, John.
Okay, so it's got all that starch.
Into the pot, yeah. So we're not really letting too much of it drain. I never strain pasta. I always pull, whether it's long pasta or short pasta, I'm always putting it right into the sauce. And so what's going to happen is that the heat of the pasta and the water is going to melt that butter, and it's going to melt the cheese. And I can see he's got water down here. We're not going to need to add any more. As that butter melts and the rest of the cheese melts, and as it sits for just 2 or 3 minutes, the starches will start to thicken, and that sauce will go kind of like an opaque gloss. It looks beautiful and it smells nice. I feel that it's very much me that they are learning from, and they're getting to know very much who I am, my personality, my humor, what makes me tick, what gets me excited. But I am very much a product of all of the amazing people that taught me what I know. I'm a self-taught cook in the sense that I just was a trial and error person in the kitchen, loved to be in the kitchen, loved to understand and learn about ingredients, and read copious amounts of books. I really am a visual learner. I don't think I would be capable of this if I hadn't watched so many of my mentors, particularly, my grandmother, my mom and her friends, and all the Italian and French women that I learned from. If I didn't actually see them do it, I don't think I would have the same ability. You can't see it at the moment, but the most perfect sauce was made, you guys. So well done. It's just lightly kind of milky, and that's what you're after. It's just very light. Spring and summer pasta sauces are not meant to be heavy. Very fresh. And so I do often find myself feeling like I've now taken on that role of the kind of elder cook in the kitchen, teaching, people like me 20 years ago who just wanted to learn everything. And I do, I talk about the Nonas a lot. I talk about my grandmother a lot. I talk about my mother. I talk about my mother's friends who were great cooks. And I do find myself quoting them or relaying stories about them. And I would have to believe that every time I'm talking about them, my guests and my students are seeing a big smile on my face. Buon appetito!
There's nothing digital about this experience. I find it immensely grounding. And it's like going to the spa for the afternoon. It's like a sensory immersion, like when we were stirring the asparagus, the butter, the garlic, like you stirred. I love stirring it. You can see the green getting saturated in color. You can smell the garlic in the butter, the scent of it. You can feel like the steam from the pasta on your face. I mean, by the time you go through all that, like you're ready to eat it. It's just like an immensely grounding. Yeah, I feel pretty mellow right now.
I'm just putting a few little holes in because our beautiful basil macerated strawberries have created this extremely flavorful syrup. So we want some of that to actually sink down into the cake. So I'm just going to take our glossy berries, which literally just fresh strawberries, a little bit of sugar, and our fresh basil. including all of the syrup. It's not a ton of syrup, so it's not going to make the cake soggy. It smells so good. And honestly, the kind of scarlet berries up against the dark kind of...
And you're gonna do the
Yes,
powder?
I am going to do the powder. Just for some color contrast and a little drama. Like, that's the most perfect strawberry flower.
I find with Enid, she makes cooking feel easy and nothing seems difficult. And, you know, don't worry about the way your pasta looks. It'll all come together. And I think that's sort of the greatest gift that I was given, that it's just simple. We make it difficult. So, and of course the taste.
I'm going to show you your dessert, and then I'm going to serve it up for you. How's it go? Oh my gosh. And that's your dessert.
May I take a picture?
Of course.
Can we touch it?
Does it have cosmos on it?
I've put a few cosmos, and these are the strawberry blossom flowers off my strawberries in the
But
greenhouse.
how do you have cosmos already?
I started them from seed.
Okay, and
Yeah, and I just had them in the greenhouse.
Every time you come here, everything becomes so simple. All of a sudden, you're like, all these hard things. You're like, how did that just happen? It was so easy and so much more simpler, or so much simpler. You walk away just feeling so encouraged.
She talks about like the training she's had and the experiences you have, and you realize like she's a really well-trained chef. Like you're making food at a pretty high level, coached by somebody who knows the shortcuts. And even though like I'm a pretty inexperienced cook, she shows you how to do it. And she's just very approachable and down to earth. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And it's not necessarily to learn the recipes.
Have a good time.
Yeah, it's not like a party good time. It's just like, I liken it to going into the spa and sitting in the hot water, and you just feel like, you know, you feel like, yeah, I'm whole, I'm good.